Hello everybody, my name is Supersaurus and welcome back to the second episode of the Hunter Valley PaleoZoo. In this episode we'll be continuing on with the entrance area from last episode with a beautiful custom cafe called the Compy Bistro that has a completed interior and connects onto a lovely Compsognathus Enclosure out the back. Just a beautiful place for guests to come and have a bite to eat, get a coffee before heading out into the rest of the zoo, whether they're waiting for other friends or just mum and dad need to refuel after the drive here. This is potentially one of my favourite builds I've ever done across any of Frontier's games. I'm just so proud of it. I love the way it looks, the way it feels, and I can't wait for you all to see how I built it. Inspired by modern-day meerkat enclosures, the main inspiration for this exhibit is the Meerkat Bistro at the Werribee Zoo, which you should see an image picking up on screen right now of that. And here I'm just laying out a lovely raised foundation for where the cafe is going to sit. And yeah, that's about all the grid pieces we're going to use in this build. Decided to go pretty much fully custom on the walls and stuff for this build. Something I don't usually do, but it was quite fun here. I used the empty benches there as steps, which I found worked really nice, and then just adding a nice wheelchair access ramp to make sure our build's compliant. Just that little bit of extra realism that always helps. And using these skylights for walls, again like we used in the gift shop side of the entrance in the last episode. Only transparent glass piece, so gotta make do with what you do, but these pieces work really well as walls, so I'm not complaining too much. So yeah, just making sure they all align properly. I scaled them up so they're not perfectly 2 meters, which means you have to do a bit of finicking around with them, but they work. And using the custom door handles from the last episode, made out of the end pipe pieces, I forget the exact name, but end pipe metal I think it's called, if you want to copy that technique, or you can just take them from one of my workshop items. Everything you see in this build will be on the workshop, including a few furniture packs, just including little pieces from the build if you don't want to take the whole thing. And then adding some pillars for the support of the roof that we're going to add, and then doing some terrain elevation just to line up the terrain with the wall there for when we add in the compies. And here I start to work on the second half of the wall and the curved roof. That's going to take me a little while, so while that's playing in the back, I think this is a perfect opportunity to talk about the future of the Hunter Valley PaleoZoo and what's coming next. So what we've been doing the last 2 episodes is what I'm calling the entrance plaza of the main trail, and we'll continue that off with one more episode next week, but we'll finish that off, adding a lovely playground and one more dinosaur before we move on to the main trails of the zoo, which will feature Ancient Asia, the Montana Trail, and one other area that I haven't quite got the name of. I have the species list for it, but something like Evolution Path or something about the early Permian and Triassic, so you can kind of guess what species are going to be in there. But yeah, just got to finalise the name for that. So yeah, I'm super excited. I've got the full list of episodes planned. It should be around 20 by the end. And yeah, I'm just so excited. I'm loving how this park is looking, and just, it's so happy. So happy. Yeah, so over here I start working on the the railing on the top of the glass, and just using that to fill in those gaps there and give the illusion that this wall is actually curved, even though it's not. So using the girder pieces for that. Painted, this was quite a challenge. It's not a perfect 90-degree curve. I know that's not correct terminology, but you know what I mean, like a quarter of a circle. So yeah, none of the pieces in game would get the curve I wanted, so just building something custom here, but I think it turns out really well in the end. It's a bit finicky, especially with the advanced move tool in this game, just not wanting to work when you have more than one piece selected. Well, it works, but it's not perfectly straight, which is very annoying. Yeah, we get that working here, just making sure there's no gaps at the top, and I think about angling the glass, but decide against that, and we fix it up just lovely over there, and copy that over to the other side to get ready to move on to building the rest of the roof here. Just first I've got to add a few structural supports and both sides. Here I just quickly grab Leaf Scale human model from the workshop. Amazing blueprint, really helped with making sure everything was staying as scale, especially when we move on to furniture. So that will also be linked down below if you want to use that piece. It's an amazing workshop item, so thank you Leaf for that. See over here I'm using the corrugated iron fence, just scaled up there, and that acted as a really nice roof piece for this. I'm adding a little bit of an overhang. Gotta love an overhang. Just make roofs look so much better. If you're looking for building tips. Yeah, just lining that up because the advanced remove tool doesn't want to work. I'm just making sure that looks lovely and is in the position I want it to be. Start fixing it, fix up the terrain there, and then start working on the interior wall that will look out onto the Compy enclosure. And decide I want it to be a bit longer, so I replace 2 of those tiles with some more wood, just increase the dining space. And just fixing up those windows there, make sure there's no gaps. And start working on the wood wall that goes along the back, and use the panel pieces just because the actual wall pieces. One, we're dealing with scaled pieces here, so they're not perfectly 4 meters, so just easier to be able to have full access of movability. And as you see here, the wall pieces just felt a bit too thick, so just use the scaled down panels. Fix that up there. Beautiful. So that, checking that I like the colours, and I'm like, yeah, that looks pretty good. So we start working on some furniture here, and I decided to make a with the front counter of the storefront part, and I used this beautiful marble pot piece as the base, and then added some wooden slat paneling across the front there. Some of those flexi-color wooden posts, and just doing a bit of, 180, 90 degree rotations around. Flipping around and changing the colour to just remove those repeating textures and make it look less monotonous. But it turns out really lovely, very happy with that. So just build out that counter and leave a gap for staff to get in. That's where we'll put our whatchamacallit, like cake box thingy. You'll see what I mean when we get to it. Where like the sandwiches and stuff would be stored, and muffins and all that kind of good stuff. So lower that down, and then over here I start working on a custom light fitting that works in the daytime using the neon pieces, which I copy and paste over to our first episode build off camera. And this will be on the workshop just as it is, which is great. I think this piece turned out so well. It just looks so real, and it works beautifully. Especially in it's hard to see in this build because it is already so well lit from the natural light, being basically entirely glass. But in small areas, this light just works perfectly. So that's definitely going on the workshop to help out with all of your builds. You can see here, just line it up with the wall. Put a couple in there, and even though it doesn't do much light casting, just having an on-looking light just adds. Yeah, see me putting one there, testing how it works. And then over here we start working on that little cabinet thing I was mentioning, using the 2-meter wall, not wall, skylights, on a little bit of an angle. And yeah, adding in, using the metal posts to create the backs and the other walls and that, just making sure it's at the right angle, because otherwise everything gets thrown off. Then I'm super proud of this. Usually I use workshop items, furniture, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with. There are some very talented people out there who make some beautiful furniture, but being so young in the game's life cycle, there wasn't really any interior blueprint, so I was like, no, I'm gonna have to make it myself. And I'm glad I did, honestly. I think it looks really awesome. So adding a little second shelf. I'm looking for a computer, but there wasn't any. So, use... I think those are still the metal beams. And then, yeah, adding a little area where people can pay. And then here what I use is the Electrolyze Eye font pieces to make a little counter menu, QR code, I don't know. It's something where people order from. And then I use the road markings here on a slight angle, sink that in, and it looks like text. So that's a little there if you're making signs or custom info things, whatever. That works really well. And here I make a what was originally meant to be like an Apple Pay pad, but it just wasn't looking right, so I ended up just turning it into a napkin holder, which is also equally important. And again, just using the road marking decals there, flipped, two of them flipped 180 degrees together so you can see it from both sides. And then move on to the actual kitchen counter for the staff to use when preparing food or whatever they need to do. And use some of the girder pieces there as the countertop, and then just some of the panels there to create the actual wall of the cabinet. And here I start working on a big backboard menu that you'd expect to see. Start off there with using the generic shapes to create a backboard, and then using again those Electrolyze Eye font pieces. This time as the text. I just rotate those around to create either words or the price point there. And I think this turned out really cool. So very happy with that. And then it's just making it look a little bit different. And then onto the actual sign for the restaurant inside, the Compy Bistro, which I'm very happy with. I think that turned out really cool. I might edit it actually a little bit, but I'm pretty happy with it. And then just using the trick of putting all your letters down or scale pieces at once before you start moving them, so you don't have to rescale it. Especially if it has like a very specific, not fully all the way down or whatever, that works quite well. And here we start working on the rest of the interior, adding some A-frame menus, and I was going to add the bins, but I just don't think the generic waste bin looks good. At least not the inside, so we just decided to pretend they're there. And just picnic benches and benches along the side, places to sit. And then using here, making some little table groups that can just be easily duplicated around the restaurant to make the rest of the interior much quicker. Little tip there, making groups, and then yeah, we have two versions of a two table, one where there's no table chairs at the back for up against the glass, another with chairs all around. And I could just make a smaller version of that. And then add some more pot plants, which we fill out with some beautiful tropical plants. Lobster claws, main one, as well as the small tree fern. Yeah, see, there's a lobster claw there. And I try other biomes, but just find they're not, just don't look right. So yeah, and bamboo's way too big. Shocker. So yeah, using those just generic tropical plants, lobster claws, that one there, forget the name of it, and then the other tree ferns and all kinds of lovely plants. So just making sure it's not clipping in. And yeah, just more lobster claws and plants and all kind of jazz, but add a few more tables around the front for if it's a lovely sunny day, and then making sure this tree fern here isn't clipping out the wall. Before moving on to the Compy enclosure, so just first thing I do is paint it out in the terrain paints, and then just add the sand planter piece along the front there just to fill in the gaps. We use those quite a bit. We're not going for like a deserty themed enclosure. Again, just drawing inspiration from Meerkat enclosures, which is what this whole thing's inspired by. So we're in a little like outdoor guest area. Then we end up putting 15 compies in here at first, but we lose 2. for reasons that will become evident shortly. Yeah, these guys love to escape. I do fix it in the end, but if your heat boxes on the collision pieces are too thin, sometimes these this tiny dinosaurs I found can just get out. I didn't know that at first though, so that's a lot of not fun there. Trying to get the compies to stay in their enclosure, but we work it out. And then adding, again, using those bench pieces that add a little, like, child step up to the window. So then, of course, check that it looks like a decent height for the compies. It's like twice their body height, so there's no way these guys should be able to get out in real life, which is good. I think I'm using those sand pieces there. For the compy colours, I decided to go for the Sala de Huaso, I think, and Rana pattern for most of them, like the limey green one that looks like the movie skin. And then I did one albino, so using no pattern and the Yukon River, I think it is. No, that's... Yeah, Yukon River maybe, I don't know. It's the white one. And that's just a little reference to albino meerkats that are pretty common, specifically the one at the Adelaide Zoo, who passed away recently. He was always fun to see and try and spot whenever I went to Adelaide Zoo, so just put a little reference to him. So here I'm working on the back fence. Again, decided to go for glass for it. Something a little bit different, but taller. And I didn't make that a group, which is going to become... Yeah, you see I make one a group here to copy around, but I wish I had made it a group when it comes to trying to fix them getting out later. But that's okay, we work it out. We always do. Yeah, start fixing up the terrain there. And then... Yeah, here, there's the first compy again. No, is it? I have no idea. Fixing up some holes. Yeah, it was. First compy got out there. I'm like, okay, probably just me not having the fence done. It was not. Then yeah, start working on some little rock work over here, using those smaller rocks scaled down to create a little rock garden around in the sand piece area, because they can't get there anyway, so may as well go to hell on the rocks. Just make that look all nice, and then another one gets out and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Okay, just continuing with some foliage work. I use some of the wattle bushes, and a lot of the succulent pieces, so cactuses and agaves and prickly pears and all that. And here I'm like, well, I'll add some trees. And that doesn't work. So yeah, I just, like, okay, I might as well put some bamboo around. If you don't know, bamboo is very effective in zoos. It grows quickly, can be used as a natural screen so people don't see staff areas, and also, especially in tropical areas, is really effective at theming. So if you're looking for like go really realistic on the plants, bamboo is a great choice. See, I'm like, well, I'll add some walls around the back so you can't see it, because I still am liking this fence, but one gets out again, so I'm like, okay, I'll put the wall underneath, and eventually we get there, but here I'm just struggling immensely with this fence, trying to make sure that I've fixed every single piece, and then I realised I actually didn't save any of that selection, so I have to redo it all again. And there we go. Alright, I'm going again. Lovely. Yeah, this was annoying. Yeah, so put that on there. I'm like, actually, it doesn't look too bad. So, I decided I'm going to keep it. Again, that changes. The walls stay there just as an extra collision box so they can't get out, but we'll cover it up with some beautiful rocks very soon. After I just place those there. And then, yeah. So, never mind, we will get that to that, but we just do a bit more rock work in the actual enclosure first. And just fix up the terrain, adding in this fallen trees, just to give the compy something to climb on. Realistically, that's what I imagine an enclosure would look like. Not only the agaves, the regular ones and the American ones as well. Bit of variety. Some more water bushes, and here I'm checking meerkat enclosures to work out what to do with this fence, because I'm like decided to not like it. And that's why I come up with, as I mentioned, putting the rocks along the fence. So I do that. Add a few bigger rocks to kind of like break it up, and then I use this rock here, the fourth rock, the little small one there, and the one side, and then rotate it so it's got this flat side at the top, and that perfectly covered up the wall. So that felt really realistic and looked really good. So I was like, don't mind if I do. And here's where we lose two of the compies, because I've put too much stuff in this enclosure by now, including these little, using those logs around the other way to create little dead sticks. And yeah, I can't place them back in. So if you do end up using this enclosure, I recommend moving a bit of the fence out the way, putting in a delivery zone, just so you can get all those dinosaurs, compies in there without having to worry about navigating the rocks and all those other hitboxes. And over here, just using some of the electrical pieces to cover up the sticking out eye font pieces from when I put them in long ways. And the chain link fence around that wire so the compies don't bite it, because that would be very bad. Bit of realism there. And then again, just covering up the rest of it, and also just making the back of the wall look a lot nicer using some of the metal posts as trims, which turns out really nice. So using those 4-meter ones there, and just breaking up the textures. It just looks really nice. I'm fixing up the windows there so there's no gaps and all of that, and then I come around to the front, place another few of those posts to create a little awning in front, just to give a bit of shade to the people sitting outside and having their coffee, especially if it's a really hot day. You don't want to have no shade. In Australia, especially. So yeah, just fixing up that step there, and using those same wooden awning pieces we used on the shelter for the Ornithomimus enclosure, just to tie in the two builds a bit more and help, sell the feel that this is all one place. So shifting up architecture can work, especially in theme sections, but you just always want to have those nice little motifs, I guess you could say, of architecture that just keep everything in the same world. It could be curbs, trims, backstage building styles, all kinds of stuff, like just bench colours, I don't know, just anything that just, keeps it all feeling like it's from the same place, goes a long way. So yeah, just moving that bit of bamboo out the way so we can have room for using those curbs to create a little garden wall, retaining wall, I don't know, something. And just mark out where the guests are allowed to go. And also create room for a little staff area. I don't furnish this in this episode, but yeah, I might do that next episode or off camera. It just depends how much footage there is. Don't want the episode to be too long. But I mean, if you guys really want to see that, I guess I can just let me know in the comments below, and I'll make sure to include it. So yeah, just also here making room for a little staircase, very rudimentary, just making it exist so in case you can see it from the guest perspectives. Again, I'll fix that all up later. A few more plants here, some century agave plants, and then adding some outdoor seating over here and some of the thyme bushes, I think they are, just as a bit of a grassy looking thing. Some weeds growing out of the ground. Fix up the terrain over there. Checking on the compies have escaped, they hadn't, so I'm like, yay! And then add some saplings around the edge to give the illusion of, just general planting that goes on. A few bushes, some tree ferns. I love the tree fern pieces, so good. And then just finish up here, going back to that original stimulus footage image, having some rocks around the edge, which I think a few. Well, just think about adding a statue, but they're way too big for this. Just fix up the curbings, the path, all that jazz, and that's pretty much the speed builds. So if you have enjoyed this video or found it inspiring, please drop a like, a comment, and a subscribe. It's greatly appreciated, and until then, Enjoy the cinematics. Bye-bye.